Welcome back to Faith and Inquiry. This is Daniel. That's my buddy Arend. We're going to talk about topics of religion, philosophy, other
Let's
things.
just try that again.
What?
You can keep this in the edit if you want to, but let's just
All
try
right.
that again.
All right. Here's the redo. Welcome to Faith and Inquiry. I'm Daniel. That's my buddy Arend. We talk about topics of religion, Christianity, faith, skepticism, and questioning big ideas. We did leave a couple open-ended things for the last few episodes, and we're going to see if we can cover some of those today. We just ended the conversation because we had to. Two that we wanted to talk about today are the source of thoughts and what are the implications of the source of thoughts. And then Arend was also giving a personal story of changing his suffering into something that helps people. So this is the point at which I turn it over to Arend.
All right. Well, I think you mentioned the previous time that we should continue talking about that subject. You're talking about like transmutation of suffering, right?
Yep, changing the venom, changing the poison into something that nourishes, right? It's a classic theme in mythology. You hear that in lots of different stories. It's even in science fiction, like Dune. They had the water of life that they had to transmute into, well, I guess something that would, pass on the knowledge of the Bene Gesserit sisterhood. I'm a big sci-fi fan, by the way. So yeah, sorry to interrupt, Arend. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So the subject of basically you went through suffering, you went through some stuff, and now you can help somebody else that went through the same thing. I think that's more like the way that I see it. So it's not really me transforming my pain into something, but I can say like it does sometimes feel like healing. When I help somebody that went through similar stuff that I did, let's say some form of verbal abuse or other forms of abuse or alcoholism or addiction. These things can be common to a lot of people, but to some it's actually not. Some people actually don't know like what addiction is. They don't really struggle with it, and they also don't understand abuse. So I think I'm speaking like specifically to like a specific group of people. So in helping somebody with kind of the same scars, some of my scars weren't all completely healed, and I found that actually learning from them as I help them, I actually resolve some issues in my own life as well. But that being said, I've also found myself in places where I took on too much. So I was helping like a whole group of people, like I think it was about 10 people, sometimes it was 20 people, and all of them like kind of having similar kind of stuff, in life, similar kind of scars. It became like a bit overwhelming for me to help them. But that was specifically because I wasn't fully recovered myself. And what was interesting in the whole process, each person that I was helping, it was like a part of me also healed as I was addressing it. So I would pray for somebody for healing. They would get healed, but I would also get healed. So it's this odd, it's almost like this, I'd say, I can't really compare it to like quantum positioning, but it's like, it was as if God was doing multiple things at the same time. So it was this person getting healed, I was getting healed, and some other people in their circles with similar scars got healed. So this was something that really fascinated me, especially when it came to prophecy and prophetic words. When I perceived that God was speaking, it was interesting how he could speak to a whole group of people by saying something, and it addresses like the same issue in a bunch of people's lives at the same time.
Mhm.
So I've encountered that a lot, quite a lot, and it was, I think that's where I really, that's where I really started, believing in God, was where prophecy happened, and sort of that's, how I was introduced to God and how I actually, became a Christian in the first place.
Sure.
So everything I do is very like that. It's very prophetic. So I would pray for somebody. I would see a vision. Not always. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's just a thought that comes up, and I ask the person, let's say the thought was, this person went through X, Y, and Z. And I would ask them, did you go through that? And then they would say usually yes or no, but my sister, and, me and my sister had issues. Or there's always something that kind of, came out. And it was really amazing to see that happen. And when I don't help people, it's like nothing happens. Not a lot. When I'm in my own space and whatever, I don't always see visions and these things. But when I start helping people, it's there immediately. Not always immediately, but when I'm in a space where I'm like focused, and I've prayed and I'm close to God, then it's really easy. So it's not me transforming my pain. It's more like me also receiving healing at the same time, along with
Sure.
other people. And obviously also when I move out of that and those scars were healed, when I would help somebody also with similar kind of issues, the healing is so much faster. And it just becomes faster and faster and faster because I've learned, and because I'm like free and healed from certain things. So it's interesting to and I don't think it works for everybody, but there's really healing in, like, today, for instance, I was at the shop, and then I bought what you call droewors, which is like beef jerky. And then this guy you get these people that watch the cars outside the shop, and then you give them a tip or whatever. They're basically homeless people. And so I gave that to him, and he was so excited. He was like, how many years it's been since I've eaten this? And he was super happy. I went into the shop, and I decided, well, I'm going to buy him a Coke as well. But just that, I think, that I found something in that as well myself, where... So I'm not kind of talking about like me receiving healing, from helping others, which is interesting.
Curious.
But-
I got an idea here to tie the two topics together, about where do thoughts come from, and then what you're currently describing. I'm just
Okay.
curious. I've known people who have had substance abuse issues. I've had a few of my own. I've known people. There's one guy in particular. I knew his father was a severe, terrible alcoholic, and my friend never ever touched alcohol because of that. Right. So it's interesting that he was motivated to stay completely sober and never ever touch a substance because he saw what it did to his father. And it didn't seem like he had any animosity toward his father. It seemed like a bit of an understanding that that's who his father was. He still had love for his father. At the same time, he saw the destructive quality, the destructiveness of, that being who you are, just a wretched alcoholic, right? Uncontrolled. So the question I want to ask you is, what motivated you to want to take your suffering and then use that as a way to connect with people? Because it seems like what you're describing is connection, right? What is the source of having that thought for you that I've been through this, I could see you're going through it, we can work through this together, as opposed to somebody who might be in the grips of some circumstances that are causing suffering, whether it's substance abuse or some sort of abusive relationship or maybe bad financial circumstances, who knows? Some people seem to just stay in it and they don't ever want to transform it. Other people never want to even go there. Some people go through it and then use it, like you're saying, as a way to connect and heal others and in turn heal themselves, which I always find is an interesting and it's a nice benefit of actually being of service to people, that it does provide value and fulfillment to yourself if you're the one providing a service. So the question for you is, what is the source of that change and why? Why did you voluntarily choose to do that? If you didn't, then it wasn't an act of free will, right? What is the source of your motivation to do this?
Okay, that's a very good and important question to ask. It was never something that I thought of and I said, "Oh well, I'm just gonna, do this." I used to be a very selfish person. I was never. If you met me before I actually became a Christian, you would have thought like, this is all a lie, because I'm not that person at all. I was never. I was like the person that would despise, just the idea of helping people. I'll just isolate myself and, just suffer through my own stuff and just be like, whatever, you do you, I do me. And that's the end of it. So it was really, I think, gratefulness because of the change that happened in my life. I wanted to do something for God. So it was out of this thankfulness that I wanted to start helping people. And so I just felt led to do that, because this specific person just kept on popping up into my head. I kept on thinking about this person over and over, and I just felt like I need to help this guy, and he was my friend at that point, and I just kept feeling in my heart, I need to pray for him, I need to help him. And so I did. So I reached out to him. And before that, I was like a cell leader. I had a group of people and so on. But that was sort of like the pastor that was kind of delegating that. And I decided to become a part of a cell group. And then eventually they made me a leader. So it was like my choice. But it was a bit different. After that, I decided to do it, out of myself. But I felt led to reach out to this person. And when I did, I started helping this guy. I started praying for him. A lot of painful stuff. He just started talking about it. It just, and he was just getting, emotional healing every time we were talking. And then there was another guy, and I started helping him as well. And then another one came, and I started helping him as well. And all of them had like stuff in common, which was, interesting, like I had something in common with them, they had something in common with me, kind of understood each other in a way, and I was like in a position where I could help them. But they were also kind of in a way equipped to also help me. So it was inspired by God, I believe. It wasn't me, because if it was up to me, I would do nothing. I just felt like I want to do something for him, What can I do? And it was literally like, what can I do? And boom, the thought came. I was like, okay, cool. So it wasn't like I was looking for a thought. I was asking a question, what can I do? And then boom. So it's those moments that you ask the question, there's the opportunity comes. So, and clearly I felt like this was from God. So I started helping, and it just kept on going. And yeah, so I guess that answers your question, right?
Yeah, it sounds to me like it was an involuntary inspiration, that you posed a question, open-ended, and the answer just arrived. And
I was, let me say, I think I was praying about, God, what can I do? So
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
you posed a question,
like open-ended towards him.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. Now, I've certainly, again, I'm the non-believer of this duo here, if anyone hasn't figured that out already. Um, and I certainly do similar things where I'm in situations and I don't necessarily know the direction to go, and I just kind of ask myself that question: what do I do now? Right? You're at a fork in the road, and you just have to go right or go left, and sometimes there's no there's no clear indicators of which is the right path to take, and you just have to go. However, it's still the same process, but I wouldn't say that it was inspired by any divine anything. It's just sort of the thought processes in my head. And, the brutal reality is we are not conscious of most of the thought processes happening in our head. They're just happening. And then we simply arrive at a moment where an answer is served up to our conscious thinking. And then we can either act on it or not. And then even the choice, I hesitate to even say that, the reality of acting on the choice that came into your head also seems involuntary. You just do it or you don't. And then after the fact is a chain of reasoning to justify what you did. It's almost like the cart is before the horse in this case. And I can't think of any other, I can't think of any situation with cognition where it's not that. You have a choice. The answer to do one thing or another simply arrives in your head, whether it's through prayer or, just your own thoughtful consideration or just impulse. And honestly, I don't know what the differences are. You simply get an answer, and then you act or you don't act on that answer. And there's been times when I've faced a choice and I thought one thing and I didn't do it, and things turned out okay. And then there's other times when I did do it and things didn't turn out okay. And I looking back on it, I can't make sense of any of it. It just seems like the choices are being handed to me as if they're, and again, this is, I got to give props to Sam Harris again. I think his thoughts on free will are really well focused and well spoken. The thoughts just appear in your head like somebody else is whispering them to you. And then the action of following through on those decisions is also done without your conscious will. It's just done. So it's curious to me to hear the post hoc justifications of why people do things. Like, I refer to my friend again. He doesn't drink because his dad was an alcoholic. Then I've known people, oh, my dad was an alcoholic, that's why I drink. I mean, how could you have completely opposite justifications? I'm sorry, how could you have the same justification for two completely opposite actions? One's being an alcoholic, the other one's being a teetotaler, and it's because of their dad, right? It's nonsensical. And for me to try to look into this, and I certainly appreciate what you're doing. You've helped me in counseling, right? I'm never going to say, what you've done for me, I'm internally grateful for. And simply being a friend and helping me through tough times, I'm not going to question your motivations. To me, it's just, well, what is this? We can look at it and put a label on it of any kind, and we can call it whatever we want. But to me, none of the labels we put on it are adequate. And what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so the labels being like, okay, this comes from God, and the other label being it comes from nowhere, right?
It's just a function of it. It might be a function of the brain, or maybe consciousness is something that's outside of the brain, some other dimension. I have no idea. I've certainly heard arguments for all kinds of explanations for consciousness, for good and bad, for the reasons we do things. Ultimately, to me, none of them are satisfying. There's always something missing, or it could always be explained either as well or better with something else, right? But none of them seem satisfactory to me.
I think if all the questions were already answered, the purpose of life would be meaningless. Look at who was the guy that discovered that the Earth was round? Columbus. Before then, they thought it was flat, and here comes a new revelation. Oh, by the way, the Earth is round. Oh, by the way, you're not the center of your solar system anymore. Oh, wow.
I hate to
So
be a total douchebag here, but I think it was Eratosthenes, an ancient Greek, that used trigonometry to prove that the Earth was round, and he was
okay,
actually able to measure. Yeah, people have known this for a while, but it's not like it was widely
proven.
accepted. Yeah, but go ahead.
So it was a theory, and they thought it was a pagan, and they wanted to kill him, right? So I think that's the guy that they wanted to. We could look it up, but maybe you could look it up while I'm talking.
Sure.
So the reality now is, okay, you first thought that the Earth was flat, and now you realize, okay, the Earth is round. Okay, now we're no longer the center of our own solar system. Now we understand that even our solar system, so we're moving around the sun, but even our solar system is like moving in a direction. So there's like all these, I'd say, layers. I wouldn't say different paradigms, that keeps on progressing. You keep on learning new things. So if all questions were answered, and if there wasn't some kind of mystery to things, it's kind of pointless, So what are you going to explore today? What problems are you going to solve? When you work, you basically get paid to solve problems, right? And somebody else would probably not be able to solve the type of problems that you are solving as well as you are solving them. So it's also this constant quest of kind of going into the unknown with the skills you already have, but there's always the potential for discovering something new, right? Mm-hmm. There's always the potential. There's like rules, like when you look at music, okay, there's specific stuff that just works, right? Specific harmonies that just make sense. But then again, you keep on going, you're going to keep on discovering new things. Like, for instance, like John Williams, he still says like he doesn't know everything. So I just wanted to talk about the whole topic of like, not always having satisfactory answers to everything. So now with that out of the way, when it comes to thoughts, the way I believe and the way I see it, you have a body, you have a soul, you have a spirit. Your soul consists of your mind, your will, and your emotions. So it's like you have a body. Then inside your body you have a soul, and inside your soul is a spirit. That's your consciousness. That's, who you are as a person. And all of these things are all interfaced, right? So you can get thoughts that are not just, originating in your head. It could be spiritually, coming from somebody else. When you look at, like, for instance, this guy, the Satanist, that said, he could plant thoughts in people's heads, which was interesting. They call it projection. And then he experienced where the parents that prayed for the children, he couldn't. There was like a blue line of fire around them, and he couldn't project any thoughts, and there was like no success in that. It's like, going out and fishing and not catching any fish, right? So projecting thoughts, that is something that they believe, they can do, I think, in some new age stuff as well. So I think that from my perspective, at least in my viewpoint, proves that, I'm not saying it proves it for everybody, I'm seeing it like from my viewpoint, it proves that you can get thoughts from good places and from, bad places. If you, let's say you meet this new friend or this new person, and they're into specific areas of interest and so on, and all of a sudden you develop interest in that specific area, and you don't really completely understand why. It's not necessarily that you're talking about it. It's like ideas that all of a sudden come out of nowhere, and you sort of don't understand, but then you realize, okay, but this person is also into this stuff. So you can literally tap into somebody else's inspiration, which is a very, very interesting thing. It's like when you work with a bunch of different directors or like composers and so on, the more people you associate with, the more inspiration there's kind of in the air. And that's sort of like the nature of like how a business, it's like this organism of people coming together, and they talk about, brainstorming, so what's brainstorming? Actually, it's, people sharing thoughts and ideas, and that's quite normal, for humans to, in that way, share ideas. Now you can say, okay, but where do their ideas come from? I believe it can come from a bad place, an evil place, or it can come from a good place. It can come from themselves as well. But if it comes from themselves, it would be something that was imprinted when they were young. It could be something they learned yesterday. It could be a book that they've read. So there's so many sources of information and input. And there is a spiritual aspect to that as well. So a person, what they call automatic writing, where
I've heard of this.
So they would literally sit, and the demon would, have them write a movie script. You've seen videos on this, right?
Yeah.
Then you get the opposite of that as well, where, like, for instance, the apostles and some of the scribes, who wrote the Torah, the Old Testament, and I'm not sure if it was Moses himself or maybe he had a scribe. They were inspired, by the Holy Spirit. So there's like automatic writing, and then there's inspiration by the Holy Spirit. Now you also get, for instance, Muhammad. He had an angel appear to him. Whether this was an angel that was a fallen angel or not, I believe it was a fallen angel. You get that. So he had an encounter of this, angelic being giving him this information that says like a whole bunch of stuff about the Bible that kind of invalidates things, which is kind of like, I don't think it's God that would all of a sudden do that, because there's so many people that have witnessed so many, variety of things, but yet information came, so thoughts came, right? You could see it like he was sitting and this angelic being arrived and he got thoughts, right? And he started writing stuff.
Look,
so I had an encounter as well with the angel, and it was the experience is literally, I could feel the presence of the angel in my room, and it's like I would feel heat. This specific one, I would feel heat, and I would feel this presence, like drawing closer to me, and it was like I could feel heat on my skin and like a sense of peace and calm. I did not hear a voice with my ears. It was as if this being was just talking, and it was like in here, but it was like thoughts. It was almost like, I think the correct way to see it was my spirit that was catching it, and then my spirit was, moving it to my soul, and that the soul, the mind, that's also connected to your brain. So it's all of these connections. And so I heard this and this and this and this. Now, somebody who doesn't believe in God would say, okay, well, you're just crazy. You're hearing voices, right? So on that aspect, you also get a schizophrenic. What's a schizophrenic? They hear voices, everywhere. I personally believe it's demonic voices, because the person goes crazy. Number one, it's that you can see the evidence that this person is breaking down. So the nature of thoughts, I think you should look at it like this. What's the results? What's the fruit that you see? Is it chaos, craziness? Or is there life? Is there something growing? Is there peace? Is there something that comes out of it that really has substance, something that draws you to it, right? So doing that, now you can say, okay, well, thoughts come from a good place and a bad place, right? I mean, people get evil thoughts.
Hold that thought for 1 second.
Good thoughts.
Funny. Okay, so you laid out a bunch of interesting ideas there, but to me, it just makes the question more impenetrable. That, okay, there's all these influences. Thoughts could be part of your culture, part of, you might have a thought because you read a book the other week or bumped into somebody and it provoked this, it inspired that. All of these things to me sound like the thoughts are actually products of things, again, that are beyond our control. or mostly beyond our control. And I don't know if you've ever tried this. No, you disagree?
No, definitely. It's the there's like, I think from both sides, like a person that's an occultist, they can also reject, like thoughts that they don't
But
want.
they choose. They don't.
The reality is there's many thoughts I had, and I just said nope, I reject that. And then so
But how do you get there is what I'm saying. Sure, you get that thought, I reject this or I accept this, right? And if
I've
you
done
want
some silly, like, here's a silly example. Sorry for interrupting you, but
do
a
it.
silly example. I would think, like, I would go to the shop, right? And I would think, like, let's buy this milk. And then I'm like, no, I'm picking the other one. So just to
Right.
free myself, and just to have that freedom of nope. And I just grab another one. It wasn't even thought, right? It was just the action.
An impulse.
So
it was just an impulse.
Just the impulse.
Yep.
But I've found that, most of the time, God can communicate to me in thoughts. The Holy Spirit can communicate to me in thoughts. And there's like, it's a silly example, but that sometimes we just get this hunch, or you just get this feeling that something's off, right?
Sure.
Now let's take it to the shop example, which is really stupid, but I'm sure everybody can relate to going to a shop, right?
Well, it's,
So I go
it's
to
an
a
example
shop.
of where you have it seems like you have a choice.
Have a choice, right?
And that's
Okay.
it, yeah.
So I go to the shop, and I want to pick this steak, and I just feel like, no, I shouldn't. And then I want to pick another one, then I decide, no, I'm going to take it in any case. And I take it home, and I realize, like, after I defrosted, this meat's completely gone. It's off.
Hmm.
And I couldn't eat it. I would have gotten poisoning if I did, because I was like, man, this stuff doesn't smell right. This is not like aged steak or something. This is rank. So in that place, I could say, yes, you can sometimes get thoughts that actually save your life. Sometimes people don't even get thoughts. They just have this impulse, and they don't know why. Like, something's off. Somebody wants to rob me now. There's a video that I saw where this guy was on his BMX, and there was a lady approaching him that was supposedly interested in buying it online. And she was looking at it, and she was like, can I try it out? And he just felt uncomfortable, and then he started just, like, driving for no reason.
Yeah.
And these guys started running out of the bushes, and they wanted to literally grab him and rob him, but they couldn't. So he drove away, which was interesting. Now, I could say, look, he didn't have thoughts, but maybe he did. Maybe there was just a thought that said, get away now, quick.
Sure.
So that could be, I believe, an angel, that was protecting him. That could be the Holy Spirit. The essence is that comes from a protective place and a good place, but now you can start making categories, right? So you're saying, like, okay, where are these thoughts coming from? So you can start, maybe just like, even if it's a broad category, you don't know the exact source, place them in a category of, okay, you can sometimes get thoughts that protect you in these situations where you feel something is off. What is this? What is it? I believe it's discernment. It's a gift of discernment.
Sure.
So,
but Aaron, I got to push back a lot here. I mean, I know there are a lot of people out there, me included, where we've gone into something. The impulse was positive. The outlook seemed positive. Everything seemed like this is lining up to be just something that is going to be awesome, healthy, positive, leading to success, or you think it's going to have this cascade of positivity in your life. And you start taking those steps toward down that path, and it just falls to pieces. It just falls to pieces. And maybe it doesn't. I mean, this happened to me so many times where it didn't just fall to pieces. It was a catastrophic, path to take. And on the outset, those thoughts, those impulses, I could say, those were guiding me. I could say, well, my guardian angel was pushing me in this path. It seemed like this was absolutely the right thing to do. And lo and behold, here I am at the end, and boy, was that a huge mistake. And of course, my life's not over. I could say, well, looking back, if I hadn't have made those series of mistakes or had that catastrophe, then I wouldn't have had this success. And I don't know what's going to happen. But if we're going to, on one hand, claim that, okay, it's, you have these guardian angels, you have these positive influences that are whispering into your mind, guiding you into certain directions. Well, it's obvious, talking to anybody who's lived any kind of a life, that doesn't always work. And it's just as random sometimes as anything else. For whatever reason, YouTube decided to introduce Mr. Ballin in my feed. I've never seen this guy before. Do you know this guy?
No.
He's a storyteller. He's really good, really good. A lot of followers. He just sits in front of the camera and the microphone and tells stories about people, and that's it. And a couple of the stories that I heard, it sounded like decent, ordinary, everyday people going on some camping trip, or they went on some cave expedition, and they decided to go one way instead of the other. Just a random choice. They thought maybe the scenery was going to be better over there, or, oh, nobody has ever explored this way, let me go check it out. Just innocent curiosity. And they ended up in horrendous, deadly situations, right? And I remember even one of the guy was a pastor who had a family, well-respected member of his community, a man of God. It was in his journals. He was taking journals. I guess he got trapped under some boulders or something in some wilderness. And, he had the wherewithal to write down what he was thinking. And it was terrible. And he, at the end, he did say that he was glad to be close to God. And he was willing to, happy to be giving up his life in this circumstance, which is interesting. But I can't say that anyone was protecting him or looking out for him. I mean, the guy, what a horrible thing. And his family doesn't have him anymore, and his community doesn't have him anymore. There was another guy that got, went into a cave and got stuck in some tiny little crevice that nobody could access. And, the guy died in there. And it's just impossible for me to think that, okay, there are guardian angels, there are positive influences that are whispering to us, trying to nudge us along, when clearly we are being nudged along into any which way. And some of these ways are great, and some of these ways are devastating. And we don't know until we get there.
So sometimes people just have to decide, look, stuff happens and it sucks, right? I'm not saying that what happened to me is nothing.
Sure.
It really hurt me. It really hurt me a lot. It really hurt me a lot. And the abuse that I went through as well. Now, when you see other stuff happening to other people, right, that it sucks. Okay, I get it. It's not fair. Life isn't fair. That doesn't now, and I say, okay, there's no protection now, that's out of the window. How can you do that? Doesn't make sense. It's logically doesn't add up.
No,
right?
It's not that logic is out the window, Arnd. It's that I don't want to be just cherry picking which examples prove your case and then ignoring the ones that don't.
Sure, I get it.
I mean, just in the name of consistency and being honest with ourselves about, I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's actually happening in this universe,
sure.
Right? So if someone's going to say, oh, yes, I was going through this, and then I prayed, and then all of a sudden everything got better. It's like, well, okay, but what about all the millions of people who have been through something similar? They prayed, and nothing got better. Or maybe it got worse. And then you could say, well, God is mysterious. He works in mysterious ways. So why pray at all? He's just either looking out for you or he's not. I don't understand this.
It's not that he's not looking out for you. The reality is, if you believe in him and you die, you're in heaven. Okay, so that's the reality we live in. We are literally, the priests wear this thing around their neck with this white. You know what that means? It means they're willing to die for the gospel. So if somebody puts them at gunpoint and shoots them, they are willing to do that. If it is if it is for that case, it's not like a suicide bomb mission.
I was just going to bring that up. You read my mind.
Why would we do such a thing? It's not that we love death or worship death or anything, but it's this reality that there's a reality after this. This is not everything. Right, so when you look at, for instance, the story, it was written about this guy who suffered his whole life, and then he died. He had a horrible life. He was homeless and everything. And he went to heaven. And then there was this other guy who was super rich. He had everything he wanted in life. He ignored this guy, didn't ever help him. This was a parable that Jesus told. And that guy went to hell. Now, this doesn't say like rich people go to hell. It's just an example, right? This guy had everything in life, but he went to hell. So the life you're after is like, everything's over. But yet the other guy was safe, he was in heaven. So
then how do you get there?
It's not. It's not that, life can be very unfair for some people, and yet there's purpose in their life. Like, look at the people that were martyred, The thing is, okay, there's other people that are not martyred, other people that are not Christians, and then they suffer and they die. Understand it, right? It makes sense. Now, I mean, what was it that you wanted to actually say? Like, okay, there is no God because of wrong stuff happening, or
no. What I'm saying is that there is something that's not lining up. It's not lining up. That when I talk to believers, and in all honesty, you're the only believer that I really talk to a lot about this type of thing these days. But in the past, I've talked to other people, and they're very willing to offer their stories as evidence to me. That yes, I believe, and I know I'm going to heaven because of these things. And then they start saying their own stories that I was in this situation and I felt like I was in danger, or I was in danger, or something had gone wrong and we were just about to get crushed by this thing or whatever. And they said their prayers, and lo and behold, they were found, or the bad thing didn't happen, or you name it, right? And they offer these things to me. And then they say, well, if you believe, you're going to heaven, so you better believe, right? Here's the evidence, which, in my opinion, lines up with the evidence that I'm getting from every believer, right? I believe in this God, not necessarily your God, Arend. I believe in this God. I said my prayers. I did the things. And lo and behold, again, I keep saying lo and behold because there's this kind of gap that they do this thing, the miracle occurs, and then there's the evidence that they want that supports their beliefs, their predetermined beliefs. And they give it to me and they say, well, you can believe it or not. And if you don't, you're going to hell. This is not a way to make a case. To me, it sounds like a threat, right? And the evidence that's given to me really feels like it's the same evidence I'm getting everywhere. Like I want to, other than, and this is something I said previously in a different episode, I really do appreciate a lot of what the Christians are doing in this world. They seem like they have a certain kind of quality about them that I really don't see in other religions. Maybe it's because I grew up in the United States and we're primarily a Christian country. But it's not just, like, I've seen this from Mormons, this kind of positivity and family values and working towards goals that I think are respectable goals that make a good life and a better world. I don't believe in Mormonism at all. I think it's a load of hooey. But man, the Mormons got their stuff together. They got their stuff together, and they say it's because
it looks like it from the outside.
It looks like it. It really looks like it.
If you believe Jesus is the devil's brother, no, sorry.
I mean,
like,
do you
that's
believe in Mormonism?
Definitely not.
Okay,
definitely not at all.
The argument
they literally believe that Jesus is the brother of. I mean, what crazy heresy? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. None of it makes sense to me. But man, you can't say that they don't have it together. I've dated Mormon girls. I've had Mormon friends,
and they can have it together and go to hell. It doesn't. Your good deeds don't save you. You can do as much good stuff as you want, and that's what makes Christianity different. It's not about your deeds.
This is a threat, man.
Honestly,
this sounds like a threat. I don't
give millions of dollars to.
I don't appreciate it. Like, this is such a strange position to be in.
That's not going to take me to heaven. That's not going to
say it again. You froze for a second, but back up like 10 seconds.
I can give money to as many poor people as I want. If I make millions and I give it all away, if I give my whole body up to be burnt and sacrificed, if there's no love of God in it, it's useless. It profits nothing. So I hear what you're saying. Okay, so you look at the evidence of how people are behaving, but what's more important is like, where is your soul heading? You know, what's the direction you're going? Whether you suffer in this life or not, what's the direction that you're going? Because you can have everything, right? You can be a celebrity and all of that stuff, and then one day you're like, well, what's the point? You know, I've heaped up all these masses, and look, I've treated people with respect and all of that, but now my soul's empty, you know? So it's really important, like, what do you fill your soul with? You know, what are you eating? Like, in terms of what are you reading? What are you filling yourself with? If you fill yourself with junk, you're going to behave like junk. Unfortunately, people get filled with junk against their choice, right? By abusive measures, by manipulation and those kind of things. And then what they put out is junk, right? And then a bunch of people can, have those reactions toward each other and hurt each other. And it's just based on stuff that was done to them that's also unfair. So, it's like, what are you filled with? What are you thinking about? Those things aren't just there. They're like, they came in, for a reason. And like I said, yes, intrusive thoughts is a thing that can inspire people to do, evil. But that does not now say, okay, well, the other thing is also like, if you focus more on the bad stuff, you're going to become like a very sick person. You're going to become like completely neurotic and, like it's just going to suck the life out of you. But if you focus more on the good things, you're going to be filled with good things, and your life is going to produce good things, and it's going to be beneficial to people around you. You're going to have a positive impact on maybe, let's say, thousands of people that brings them life. So that is the responsibility that you have while you're here. What are you filling yourself with now? Because if you influence a bunch of people and make them negative, what's that going to be? That's going to contribute to thousands of people whose lives can be destroyed because of negativity that an influential person is filled with. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's more important. What are you doing that is impacting others that is of value? Or is the evil stuff, does it have value? It sucks, right? I get it. Like, we have to navigate it. I understand it. Like I said, that's where the forgiveness comes. That's where forgiveness has to happen. I have a terrible relationship with my dad, even to this day. But now I have to heal. I have to recover. How am I this confident? Where do I get this confidence? Like, it doesn't make sense. How can I have this confidence if I do not have a good relationship with my father? I've got a new father, and that is God. And if that relationship with what I claim as God has this effect, am I lying so good that the effects of what comes out of me is good effects, but it's all just like, made up?
No, I'm not in any way claiming that you're a liar. And I'm saying this from a place where I have looked at my own beliefs extensively, seen where I have really believed in something. And it could be something that was a scientific idea or a spiritual idea or a financial idea, a career choice, just any idea that I've held strongly. And I look back and I say, wow, I was wrong. I was just wrong. And it doesn't mean I was a liar. It just means I was misled, or I had thought through it the wrong way, or maybe I had gone in it with good intentions and the right beliefs, and it just didn't work out. And it's not saying that I was lying. I was just wrong. I'm not even saying you're wrong, Arend. I'm just saying I don't know. But if I'm going to get on board with these things, I need to see something that is going to stick out as different. That, okay, I can see that this is pointing towards what I think might be true. and that's just my values. And I didn't choose these values. It's just a value that, again, this is like the source of thought. What's the source of my need for this to be the way that I want it to be? I value truth. The thing is, I don't know what that is. I should say I prefer the truth. I don't know what the truth is. I would like to think that we can get there, but maybe we can't. But we're not going to get there by any other way than having a discussion about it. So here we are. I mean, ultimately, we do have to talk it out. I don't think you're lying at all. And when I hear somebody professing their beliefs in other religions, I don't think they're lying either necessarily, although I think some of them are. I'm not saying that I think you are. There are definitely people out there who are manipulative, and they use religion and belief as a tool to extract money and fame and power and respect and all of these things, and has nothing to do with what their words are. It's just they have a need to get that. Yeah.
It's sort of them making themselves feel better by helping others. So
yeah.
But
I've never gotten that.
I don't like doing that. I don't help others to feel better about myself. I honestly sometimes don't want to, really.
Yeah.
And after I do, I'm like, wow, this is so good. Look at how this person is now succeeding. This is so nice to see. That's the blessing that I get. Right, it's literally just me seeing somebody succeed.
Sure.
And that's great. But okay, look, here's the question that I have.
Okay.
We're going a bit
You're
off
asking
topic.
me questions now. Yeah, let's do it. I'm usually asking you questions.
off topic. If this thing doesn't work out, so be it. If you have to cut some parts out, please do it. If we have to talk maybe an half an hour longer, let's do that.
Sure.
Okay, so you're welcome to cut that out. I don't want to look like a bad guy, because I had a horrible, weekend. It wasn't a nice weekend. Now you're seeing a Christian that's angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm angry, like I'm upset. And this is because the person that I'm helping, that I'm counseling, that I'm close to, somebody close to him died this weekend. Okay, like right in front of him. He was in a motorcycle accident. Now, okay, I'm not a fan of motorcycles. I told him it's not a good thing. I would never find myself on a two-wheeled motorcycle ever, because I see it as a coffin on two wheels. Okay, putting that aside, the other guy who's kind of helping me with like work and those things, his mother's in the hospital, and then I had to go to my dad, and now he wanted to fight with me as well. So this is a Christian that is pissed off. This is a Christian that's in the flesh. Now, somebody can see this and say, Christians, look at him as a hypocrite. And in this moment, I am. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you, because I'm not in my best, space right now. I thought, well, great, I'm going to be, ready for this. But I'm not. So what do I now do as a Christian? This is where I have to now sit, and I let go of my own will and my own desires and all these things, and I surrender them. And I forgive, and I, work through things. And it's not that I'm angry with God or any of that. I've like, stuff happens, right? And it sucks. And it's normal to have this response. So, having said that, the question that I have is, you've heard many testimonies of many Christians. Now, my question is, what do they tell you to do? What are the actions that you can take? I can give you one. It's a very simple thing. You could say, okay, I've read the Bible. I don't know, have you? Have you read parts of the Bible before?
I've read
Have you
a
read
lot
like
of parts
the
of
New
it.
Testament?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've read all the Gospels, a few books of the Old Testament. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time ago. So I'd suggest just give it a try. Read it again. Just read it again.
Let me
it's going to bring up more. It's going to bring up more questions. But that's the irony is, look at how Jesus spoke to people. How he spoke to the Pharisees. He asked them questions. They asked him stuff, and he answered by asking them questions. And then they kind of like retreated, because just him asking them questions revealed how evil they were.
Let me respond.
So it's good.
Yeah, let me respond. Actually, when just when we started doing this, I thought, well, let me do a little bit more Bible reading because I figured you'd probably do some quotations and stuff like that. And I downloaded an app. Oh my God, it's trying to get me to do feedback. Hang on. I got a Bible app. It's called Holy Bible. And it would give me verses and things to read throughout the day. And I started doing it, and I'd end up reading the suggested verses several times. It's on my phone. And I would read them again, and I'd read them again. And then there would be a commentary about it, and there would be a video of somebody commenting on it, giving some kind of a very brief sermon or whatever you want to call it. And I did that for a couple weeks, and nothing hit me as anything. It didn't hit me at all. It's like, I don't know. It just didn't speak to me. It just didn't speak to me. And I really would like to see what other people are seeing, right? To me, it's like, I don't know if you had this in South Africa, but when I was a kid in the 90s, I grew up in Pennsylvania. We had this thing in the newspapers. It was called Magic Eye. Did you have this?
No,
It was like
no.
this weird optical illusion. It was like squiggly lines, really like a disjointed, chaotic pattern. And you'd have to like defocus your eyes. And if you could do it just right, a 3D image would appear from the 2D page.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I remember those. Yeah, with the
Yeah.
dinosaurs and this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, this is like when somebody says, okay, read the Bible. I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to find
Okay.
that point of focus in my reading where I'm going to see
you
the
see
things
something.
jump out. And I swear, I'm 45 years old, never. And, we studied religious texts in college, went to a good college. I went to a good college and boarding school. I'm an educated person, had great teachers. We looked at different religious texts and myth, and it's interesting. It's fascinating. But whatever it is that you're getting out of reading the Bible, I am just not seeing it. It's just like this Magic Eye thing that you're saying, my God, look at that dinosaur popping out of this chaos. I'm like, what are you talking about?
How much time per reading would you spend?
20, 30 minutes in the morning after I exercise.
Yeah.
Then I
So-
got to get on to other stuff.
Here's the funny thing. If I do that, I can also possibly get nothing. Now you're thinking like, what are you talking about? You're a Christian. Well, I'm going to get something because I remember something from the previous time and a revelation that I got. When I open the Bible, I say, Holy Spirit, please interpret this for me. Like, there's letters, but there's something inside. There's a spiritual substance that I cannot find with my mind. It's no matter how much I try. When I don't do that, there's literally a rule that says the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. And what that means, and also you can read this and be like, what? It means that just reading the dry letters, it's actually going to confront you. It's actually going to break down stuff. It's going to kind of like feel like, a part of you is being killed. Like a part of you is being humbled because you're like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand what I'm reading. But the Spirit gives life. So that's how I was taught. And applying that was the only way that I could, start to really, get something from the Bible. I would open it up, and one word would have all these things that come out spiritually. So I would literally receive a bunch of revelation from it, where somebody else would receive something else, yet it's all relevant and it's all in that one kind of sentence. So, and that's how God can work. Like, this quantum positioning thing that I'm saying, like, is you can say so many things just by using like one word. So it requires this level of, I'd say, ritual, where some people would like to go on their knees. I don't do that. But it might work for, let's say it might work for you if you give it a try. And it's literally, I'm not saying it's going to be the answer and the first experience is going to be wow and everything, but literally try it. Go on your knees and just what I said is, God, if you exist, whatever you are, because I said, well, maybe God is an alien, and maybe the aliens built the pyramids. That's what I believed back then when I was staying in the commune. I just said, God, if you exist, like I'm here, okay, and I'm surrendering because I can't go on like this. If you exist, please help me. So I was there, atheist. The moment I said that, I just opened myself up to a conversation with somebody. So it's like you're interested in this girl, right? I keep on using this example. It's such a bad example. I know, but you're let's say this person, like you would like to meet this person and get to know this professor or whatever, and you're searching in all the crazy places that that says stuff about him that's not always, good, and so on and so on. You're never going to really get to know the person. You're going to get to know a lot of perspectives of other people about this person. It literally requires you to just start a conversation. Like, for instance, that moment that you had, if you just said something. I'm not saying it's too late now, but that experience that you had, right? You had this experience with infinity or this eternal nature that was. You can even, if you investigate that again, just like, I want that again. God, if this is you, do it again. I want to have that experience.
Sure.
It's not necessarily going to be just that moment. It might be the next day, or it might be at some point in time where it would make sense. Because the thing is, God sees where you are. He sees what you're thinking, and all of that. He knows when the right moment comes. So remember, I said that prayer. Did my life change immediately? No.
Okay.
I literally went on my knees. I said, well, I don't want to continue the way that I'm going, so I'm choosing to surrender to you. I want to give this a shot. And like, if you're out there and you hear me, well, that's it. That was the end of my prayer. I then started going to this cell group eventually that this girl kept on inviting me over and over, and it started driving me crazy. I just said, okay, I'll go. Fine, I'll just go. All right. And I was thinking, whatever. I'm going to laugh at them. This is stupid. After I did that prayer, you think like, what? Like, this guy's crazy. What's going on? There's some kind of illogical thing happening. I literally prayed that, and now I'm behaving this way. Something's wrong with me, right? That's what I realized afterwards. There was something really wrong. I literally did that prayer a few days ago. Now I'm like, whatever. I'm going to be obnoxious. And I'm not saying that's what all atheists do, but that's what I did. So I said, I'm going to sit and laugh at them. Literally, I said, I'm going to sit in this cell group. I'm going to laugh at all of them. And I went, and I was dead silent. I couldn't get a word out. I was like, I have no idea what they're talking about, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, you weren't seeing the magic. You were me looking at the magic eye.
I wasn't seeing that. And I could have walked out of there and said, this is BS, let's go home. But I was so curious. And it's like this thing where I don't know what God does, but you just become more and more curious, and you keep on digging, and you just can't stop. And from that moment, I just couldn't. But I would fight and I'm not going to go back. And then the girl would invite me again, and then I was, okay, fine, I'll go this Sunday. Okay, great, I'll go to church. So I went back. Church service. I couldn't even remember what was happening. I was probably thinking about a bunch of nonsense. I wasn't even hearing what the pastor was saying. That's how spiritually messed up I was.
Okay.
And so it went on and on and on and on. And at some point, I said, okay, look, God, if you're real, come on. You need to show yourself. So I was kind of challenging him, right? And some people say it's not good to do that. I felt in that moment like, well, I don't know. Maybe he exists, but he's not interested in me, clearly, because I feel like that's what I felt like in that moment, sitting there with my South Park t-shirt and my stinky attitude. I was a god. I had my own band.
God of South
What are you
Park.
what are you gonna do? I'm gonna smash you with my electric guitar. I have people that worship me in the bars. That's who I was. Stupid. It was like small crowds. But I thought I was amazing. And that all these girls around me, and I was like alpha male, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So after quite some time, I just kept on going, and there was just a place where I was just open for prayer, and that's it. I was closed down totally, but it was a place where I decided to open up. The thing is, I was afraid of being abused, because that's what I'm used to. Now there's this pastor, so when I see authority, I was like, he's gonna start beating me with fists or start shouting at me and abusing me verbally. And that's why I closed down. So it was my trauma that was blocking me. I couldn't see the stuff. I was literally like spiritually blind. I could hear people praying in tongues, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. This is so crazy. Like a bunch of people praying in tongues. What's going on? And their smiles, there would be like the eyes would like be like glow and white, and I don't know. Couldn't explain it. So I could see like these people are on cat, or they're doing cocaine or something. I'm not sure what they're doing. But I don't see them, with a credit card sniffing. I mean,
Right. No, I've
just
seen that
thought,
too.
well, look,
I've
it's just consistent. It keeps on going, and it's like, but that's not everything. I mean, that's just the outward evidence, right? That's not like everything. But I felt love. I felt the people really cared, and the pastor prayed for me, and then I got delivered. But I think it was the right moment, and that was not the first session. There was another session that happened later after that. So I had this girlfriend. She was in the church. She kept on pulling me to go to church. I just wanted to be her friend. She wanted to be more than that. She said it was just because she was physically attracted. That was the reason. So later on, I realized, okay, well, this is not going to work. And it didn't work. It was terrible.
Right.
But in any case, that's beside the point. So she was praying, and I was with her. She started praying in tongues. And I was like, I couldn't do that yet. So just this strange thing. I said, put your hand on my chest. I took her hand, put it on my chest. She said, okay. Well, I did it, right? And so I voluntarily, just like, I'm curious, like, keep praying. I want to see what happened. And she prayed, and I felt pain. I felt pain, and I felt like, oh, you're hurting me. Take your hand off. Like, what are you doing? She said, oh, no, I understand what's happening. I was like, what are you talking about? She put her hand on my chest again, and she continued praying, and I started manifesting. This thing literally took over. Started speaking in demonic tongues to her. I can't recite it, but it sounds like Harry Potter Parcel tongue. It sounds very close, like scarily close to that. And I was like, what's happening? She grabbed a Bible. She just started reading random words. Not with substance and with faith or with, like there's some conviction behind. She just started like reading the phone book, right? And this thing literally knew that she doesn't know what she's talking about. And it literally spoke through me and says, like, you don't know what you're talking about. And she was like, oh, I don't know what to do. So she called the pastor. So this thing inside me knew that she didn't have the wisdom to, deal with this demon. This demonic entity. I thought, my goodness, they're going to take a silver cross. I'm this bad guy. It's terrible. Like this is going to be like the news in the church that there was this guy, he had a demon. My goodness, you can't believe it. Like, and I thought they were going to take holy water and all of that. The pastor said, like, the one spoke to me was the worship pastor. He was talking to me. This thing was literally just like speaking in demonic tongues and ignoring him. And he said, oh, okay, fine. And then the lead pastor called me. Boom. All of a sudden, it changed. This thing was no longer speaking demonic tongues. It was just like, hi, pastor. That was like, it was like this thing couldn't speak to me. He said, don't worry. This happens to a lot of people. It's not the first time. I'm like, what? Said, "Yeah, do you want us to pray for you?" I said, "Well, I was shaking. I was like, yes, there's something in me, like this. I don't feel okay. Like something's really wrong. Like exorcism of Emily Rose. This is what's happening, right?"
Yeah.
So we got in the car, and her dad's like old car that gave issues and everything. He gave us a lift, and he was like, "What's going on? It's late. I want to sleep. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like whatever." He didn't believe in any of that stuff. He's a Christian, but he's not in the spiritual stuff. He's like, "Whatever. Let me just get you to church. Okay, fine." And then so he dropped us off at church, all like, "Oh, I just want to go back home and sleep." And then he drove back, went to sleep, I guess. And then we went into the church building, and there was just like this meeting room above where they usually meet before services. And there was just like a bunch of nice chairs, and we could just sit down and talk. I was like, "Why do you want to talk to me now? Like, I've got a thing inside of me." And they were just talking to me, and then they just started praying for me. It was two pastors, and I think she was also there. And I can't exactly really recall exactly what happened, but I just started like saying, I feel terrible. I feel just like rejected, and probably stuff along those lines, that I feel lonely and so on. And so they just kept on praying for me, and I started crying. Remember the first encounter where that other pastor prayed for me? He just dealt with like some angry thing. Some angry, maybe a spirit of violence. I don't know. Because I was watching a bunch of, crap that part in my life. But in any case, so I was just crying and crying and crying and crying, and he kept on praying. And then afterwards, he very politely asked me, like, "Have you ever slept with prostitutes?" I was like, "No." He said,
quite a question to ask somebody.
He said, "Because there was a lot of stuff inside of you, a lot of stuff." I said, "Well, I had a lot of, like, sexual relationships, so I guess, it kind of makes sense, right?" So it was all those soul ties and stuff with all those, ex-girlfriends and all that stuff. And it felt to me like, just like I could, like, air entered me and I could breathe again, and these rocks fell out. And that stuff made me blind. I know it, because after that, I went to church, and here I started speaking in Hebrew, just like, I was like, this sounds like Hebrew. This is so strange. Because I've heard some Hebrew before, and then it just like came out. I was like, I'm sure that's just happened. I was like, well, I guess I prayed in tongues. So it was literally, I was open, and Holy Spirit just like, help me. It's like, do this without, I was just surrendering, right? And he just did that. And from there, later on, I started praying in tongues as well. I was walking up and down with the people, and then it started flowing. And I was thinking like, wow, these people are going to look at me like, I feel so weird. Like, they're all going to be like, oh, wow, he's praying in tongues. Like, what's wrong with him? That was my lens that I was kind of processing things through. And they didn't budge. They just kept on praying. I was like, oh, okay. And I just kept going. And as I was doing that, it was like, Holy Spirit just started working in me. And things didn't change overnight, but I was free. And all of a sudden, I could start to see visions and all these things. But the reality was these demons had to bugger off. And it was a battle. Now, you think that's the last? No, that wasn't the last one. There was more stuff still inside of me. So there was still some rocks inside here. Even though I can now pray in tongues and that stuff, there was some more stuff still in my heart, I guess. So some parts of me got opened up. Some parts were still closed down. And I couldn't feel it. It's like you feel numb. You feel nothing. There's nothing. That's how a hardened heart feels. That's been, broken 1,000 times. So after that, there was the event of, I said I wanted to get baptized. I said, I want to get baptized. They said, okay. They didn't even talk about it. I just said, I want to get baptized. So I said, okay, well, you get the salary. Now, Pastor, you're going to baptize me. I was just like that. It's like, okay, I could do it. Fine, no problem. Doesn't really matter who baptizes you, but okay. And so it was organized and everything. And the day of where the baptism was organized, it felt like hell was manifesting around me. It was like my eyes opened, and I just saw like all these demonic figures around me, and like it was really heavy, and it felt like these things wanted to just grab me and hold me back. It felt like I was fighting for my life, but I wasn't really. It was just like manifesting. But from my perspective, it was almost like I'm laying in the stretcher and I'm gonna like die or something. Oh, by the way, that first time that stuff started, well, the second time where the girlfriend prayed for me, where another thing manifested, in that experience, it felt like I was falling down like a ditch into hell. Like in that moment where that thing started manifesting, I saw myself like literally hanging like this. I'm gonna fall into that. So I had this fear of going to, like, I don't want to go to hell. What's this thing, wants to take me to hell? That was, I feel, the mission of this spirit that I had. Okay, so, any case, let's go back to the baptism day. So stuff went wrong, and it was just like this whole mission to get baptized. I was like literally saying, no, let's just leave this. This is weird. This is, crazy. So she said, but okay, you organized to get baptized. No, you don't want to anymore. I said, well, I don't know. It feels like I'm dying. This is not good. I shouldn't go because this is what I'm experiencing, right? Something's wrong. But, so I arrived at the house and I was like shaking. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to die. This is bad. No, stay away from the pastor. Don't look him in the eyes. I was hearing these stuff like, don't look him in the eyes. Don't, no. Just resist. Don't. And then I just said, shut up. And I went quiet. I just decided bullshit. Like, I'm here. I said I'm going to do it. I've committed. That's it. So I was standing and it was in the winter. It was like this time of the year in South Africa. Like, I think that's what they were thinking. Like, why now? It's cold. Like, in the swimming pool. Okay, fine. If you don't mind, that's okay. So I guess I got a kind of like a Russian Orthodox. It wasn't ice or anything, but I was standing like just on the stairs of the pool, and the pastor had a Bible, and he just read to me like baptism and what it means, and it was like, okay, cool, so you understand this. And I said, yeah, cool, let's just get me baptized. Like, that was just like, come on, I don't want to go to hell. Like, I felt like something pulling me.
Yeah, get on with it already, you're thinking. Eh?
Yeah, like, please, just like, and it's like, okay, but he was so patient and full of wisdom and all of that, and was just going on. I was like, my goodness, just get me baptized. Or okay, so he was a big guy. He looked like a rugby player, like a really big guy, very big. So, which I think was cool, because there was a reason, like, for that. Because what happened after is what's really interesting. So he took me. I think he said, just hold my head like this, and I took my other arm and just did this, so there's no water coming into my nose. And he said, obviously, close your eyes. That's you're just gonna go under the water and gonna up the water, and that's it. There's nothing funny about it. It's a symbolic thing. And so I did that. So he was holding my hand, and then he lowered me down into the water, and a force literally pulled me into the water. This big pastor couldn't hold on. He was like, whoa, what's happening? That showed me something happened there. It wasn't my weight, my body weight or anything. This guy had like these big muscles, right? And in that moment, I went under the water. I literally looked like I went out of my body, and I saw my body in the water from below. And like the rays of light, shining into the water, but the water didn't end. It went on forever. It was like eternal. And this hand came into my body and literally did this and pulled something out of me. And that was when I was literally, pulled into the swimming pool. So it was all happening simultaneously. So when this hand went into me, it was like this golden hand went into me, and it pulled this darkness out of me. And the darkness went into the water, and it just vanishes into, it disappeared. It left me. I came out of the water. The pastor's eyes are this big. He's like, I didn't sign up for this. What's going on? And he was like, okay, I don't know what just happened. And boom, I started speaking in tongues. Just like, it just didn't stop. And it felt like something fell on my head like hot oil. And it felt like soothing, almost like honey. And I was like, man, I feel like a human being. I feel like I exist now, you know. And he's like, oh, well, that's good. He's not used to this direct kind of reaction or this kind of response. And from there, you know, things just continued. I had a lot of pain I still had to deal with.
Sure.
During cell, I got angry with the cell leader. I said, you don't understand, you know, what I went through. It wasn't perfect, but the journey started and it kept on going, kept on going. You'll be surprised how vast the human body is and how much stuff it can contain. It can contain so much information.
Hi, this is Daniel with Faith and Inquiry. Just wanted to say thanks for watching the full episode. We hope you subscribe. Thanks to all the new subscribers out there, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.